To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave para peeps on this side of the veil, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Shawn Whittington. I'm a seminarian with the United States Old Catholic Church, and we've got a great show today. You know and you love my guest already, and that's why you tuned in. She's in the green room. I'm going to bring her out really just in a few moments. But let's first check the prayer urn. Barbara B. from Texas. Raised my kids Catholic. They are all grown and gone and out on their own. They have all strayed from the church. Would you pray they come back? That's a beautiful request, Barbara, and absolutely, most definitely, I will do that for you. And I'm going to ask my paranormal ministry family to do this also. Add a little love and light and some of your own good vibe to this prayer for that. More and more people seem to be straying away from the church when they were originally, baptized and maybe even confirmed, or they're been in a God-fearing Christian family all their life, and then for whatever reason they stray. Let's try and get more of these people back home with God and Jesus and Mary and the Holy Family and the Holy Trinity and all of that. Let's get them all back under that roof. So just when I say this prayer, please just touch your computer screen, bow your heads, and just throw some love and light and good vibe toward this prayer. You find a good one for that. This is a beautiful one. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Most sweet Jesus, Redeemer of the human race, look down upon us humbly prostrate before you. We are yours, and yours we wish to be, but to be more surely united with you. Behold, each one of us freely consecrates himself today to your most sacred heart. Many indeed have never known you. Many, too, despising your precepts, have rejected you. Have mercy on them all, most merciful Jesus, and draw them to your sacred heart. Be King, O Lord, not only of the faithful who have never forsaken you, but also of the prodigal's children who have abandoned you. Grant that they may quickly return to their father's house, lest they die of wretchedness and hunger. Be King of those who are deceived by erroneous opinions, or whom discord keeps aloof, and call them back to the harbor of truth and the unity of faith, so that soon there may be but one flock and one shepherd. Grant, O Lord, to your church assurance of freedom and immunity from harm. Give tranquility of order to all nations. Make the earth resound from pole to pole with one cry. Praise to the divine heart that wrought our salvation. To it be glory and honor forever. Amen. Okay, Barbara, there you go. And I think I'll even light a candle for you and your children, Barbara. How's that? You didn't ask for one, but I'm feeling the need to do that. Barbara, may the Holy Spirit enter and intervene in your life and the life of all your children and bring everybody back under the same spiritual roof. Amen. This candle will burn here throughout the rest of the show, Barbara, and then I will put it in the room with all the other candles that are burning for everybody else who've requested one. Let's check the mailbag. The Paranormal Ministry mailbag. I have been in there a lot this week. I think I saved a couple for tonight. Yeah, there's one in there. John C. from New York. Some say there are only angels and demons. Demons pretend to be ghosts. Do you believe in ghosts? You know what? That's a great question, John. And I'm going to leave this question out and even throw this past my guest if I get a chance to, because this is right up her alley. But really quick, yes, I believe in ghosts. What did my mother tell me when I was very young seeing ghosts? Ghosts are just people without a body anymore, and there's no reason to be scared of them. If they appear to you, it's because they need your help or they have a message. And if you don't want them appearing to you anymore, then you just ask them to please stop appearing to you. And I would have to say 99.999% of the time they will leave you alone. Demons, completely different story. You, whether you're very familiar with uh, in this field or not, most everybody knows when you're in the presence of true malevolence and true evil and the demonic. So there is a big difference, and you know what that is. If it happens, God forbid you ever are confronted with that. If you are, then you know. But yes, having said that, I'm only human. Do I think perhaps maybe in my lifetime, more times than I care to admit, I was probably fooled by a demon thinking I was just dealing with a ghost? Absolutely. So you got to be careful. Moral of the story is just be careful. And if you're not cut out for this, and I don't think I am, God's got me by my hand and guiding me down this path. Um, but the longer I'm in this field, the less I feel I know. There are no experts. Nobody's got all the answers. Just be careful. But I'm going to talk to my guest about that today. If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. That's our website. Go there to visit. A lot of cool things there to see. Remember, my wife and I don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with their paranormal issues. So if you're there on the website visiting and you notice the donate button and you're able to do so, I know times are tough, but if you're able to do so, click on it and send in a small donation. I promise you, it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we will put it to good use. Don't leave the website without going over to the page called the WSE course/book. On that page, you'll find my new haunted autobiography, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry. And I quote, scariest book I ever published. That was Annette Munich, owner of Stellium Books, my publisher. But don't let that scare you off of purchasing a copy. If you haven't done your good deed for the day yet, pick up a copy. You can get it less expensive at Amazon. You can get it autographed off of the website, enclosed in a house blessing kit. But the great thing about it is part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my book goes to support stjude.org, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Nevada, and the ASPCA. So you get to help some of the most neediest children on the planet and the animals too. How cool is that? Um, scroll, and this is a great time to get that first book. I'll tell you why. God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry 2 comes out this summer. We're just a couple of weeks away from that coming out. And there are some stories in the first book that I had to leave open-ended because the investigations weren't done yet. They were still open investigations. And I bring closure to some of those cases and write about them in the second book. So this is a great time to get caught up on those stories, getting the first book before the second one comes out, or wait till the second one comes out. I think I'm going to arrange with Amazon to have a nice deal on a gift package, a dual package, both books in one. I don't know yet. Don't leave the website without scrolling a little bit further down on that page. You'll see the Worldwide Society of Exorcists, which I'm a founding member. I offer an online college level course, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare, through the WSE. And this is a course for all you true warriors for Christ that feel a calling and a longing to want to have more knowledge when it comes to drawing your line in the sand, making a stand, circling the wagons, and putting up a good fight against, God forbid, true evil if it ever comes calling. That's the course for you. You can enroll in the course there at the website. If you want more information on the course before making that type of commitment, there is a Worldwide Society of Exorcists Facebook page. You can go there and read a little bit about the course, or you can just reach out to me. I'm approachable and I'm easy to find, and we can talk about the course and see if it's right for you. Most importantly, please keep all of my former, current, and future students in your prayers. And all my students that take the course and graduate get a stunning diploma, certificate of completion, suited for framing, along with some other very special blessed items that you can only get from yours truly. Okay, now the reason why you all tuned in is for my guest tonight. She's been on a few times. She's one of my paranormal ministry family's favorite guests, and I didn't even have to prepare much for tonight because some of you already sent in questions for her. Plus, I had questions left over from the last time she was here. I promised we would just continue on the conversation. What can I say about her other than I love her, I respect her, she's really cool. She's a paranormal authority, radio, TV, and film personality, author, and the resume goes on and on and on. Brothers and sisters, please welcome to the show the one and only Dr. Heather Leigh Landon.
Hello.
Hello. You and I are going to have to quit meeting like this. People are going to start talking.
Shh, don't tell my husband.
Well, my wife knows because she's watching on her laptop in the other end of the room. So
he's probably watching upstairs too. So,
oh my! It's Monday night, 5 p.m. Pacific in Vegas, 8 p.m. in Florida, where you're at. I just talked to another person about you the other day. Said she moved to Florida. She just has a book came out about ghost towns in Nevada. She's not in Florida. I'm all, yeah, she moved to Florida. She didn't want anybody to know. It might be a whole witness protection type thing going on. But she's in Florida now. And having said that, there's a couple of things that I want to congratulate you on before we get into other stuff. I want to congratulate you on RK Entertainment.
Oh, thank you.
How cool is that?
Yes.
How did that all come about?
Everything I'm doing is right.
Everybody wants to know how that all came about. And of course, these are people that some are in the paranormal community and don't have any representation. And I think they're good people and I love them, but they probably are thinking, I want to appear at Paracons. I want to maybe be on a TV show. So they think they need to get some representation like that. And some people just aren't even in our field and just, want to be a part of that type of thing. Talk about how that even came about, how one goes about getting involved in an organization like RK Entertainment, because very cool. They represent a lot of talent, not only you. How does that whole thing happen?
I actually kind of stumbled upon it. I have a convention this weekend in Orlando, and then I have another one up in Virginia Beach in September, and then one in October up in Plattsburgh, New York. And I was starting to realize, and it also goes back to when my knee surgery was scheduled, I had to postpone and reschedule my entire book tour in Nevada. And I realized I couldn't do this alone. So after doing some research, talking to people I know who he represents, I ended up reaching out. We've had several calls before it became official. And he realized that I do have something that he can market. And it just kind of went from there.
That is very, very cool. And I'm glad you brought up the events. I didn't know about the one up in northern Florida there, but Phantasm.
Yep.
Now, talk to me about this, because I know that there's people that have, I don't have that ability. One, because I'm broke. Two, I don't travel well. Three, I got too much on my plate right now. It's hard for me to, just to even get out of the house and go to work. So talk to me about Phantasm. Let everybody know what that event's about, because there are a lot of people watching that probably can go to this event. I heard great things about it. And if they do go and see you, what can they expect from seeing Dr. Heather Leigh Landon in person?
Yeah, this event is actually a horror conference, but one of my fellow paranormal investigators on the Warren Legacy Foundation, he attends every year, and he was in charge of doing what they wanted to start was a paranormal track. So when you show up at the convention, I'll be at a table with Chris McKinnell, Ed and Lorraine Warren's grandson, and Joe Frankie, who trained with Ed and Lorraine Warren. We'll be doing autographs. I'll be taking pre-orders on my book because the book comes out the day after the convention and I can't sell it beforehand. So go figure, but I am taking pre-orders. And we will also be doing several paranormal panel discussions. I just pulled them up because I have a long list of panels I'm going to be a part of. I know I'm doing 2 panel discussions on haunted Southern Nevada ghost towns, which is based off of my book. Then that Friday night, I will be talking about the Warren Legacy Foundation and about Ed and Lorraine Warren. Then we have a panel discussion on real horror and paranormal stories. And that one's also going to talk about how the movies got paranormal communication right and how they got it wrong. True stories behind the Conjuring movies, a paranormal Q&A, horror story origins, which is basically talking about how every horror movie has some type of real life paranormal origin. And then the true story behind The Nun. And then I'm doing a special presentation on could Dracula really exist?
Wow. That is very, very cool. I'm a big horror movie buff. That is very cool. My living room is like wall to wall, ceiling to floor, all collectible cult horror movie posters. I am very into that. I wish I lived closer. Gosh, that event sounds really, really cool. You mentioned the Warren Legacy Foundation. I know that you guys have probably already discussed this many times, and maybe I'm living on the moon and this has already been done. But what keeps the Warren Foundation from having their own event? I would imagine that they could have their own Warren Legacy Foundation Paracon, and it would be a huge success. Has that happened?
Right. It hasn't happened yet, at least from the Warren Legacy Foundation. I know Nesper has their own convention that they do, but our foundation is working on it. We tried to have one this year in New Orleans, but the logistics just didn't quite work out. But we have partnered with Flumery Promotions, which is why we're starting to do some smaller events to raise money to make the bigger Paracon happen.
Very, very cool. Looking forward to that. The day that you guys put that together, that's going to be a huge success. And who knows, maybe I'll be able to come to that. Or who knows, with what's things happening, in the future that you guys might even request me to come. I'm not calling anybody out. I have to do this though because you mentioned The Conjuring, and I'm just repeating what somebody told me. I remember many, many years ago when I still had my radio show. I believe it was Andrea Perrin on my show,
Right. Yep.
And she talked about very few things in that movie actually really happened with the Perrin family there that movie is based on. And I you can get her books and find out, for yourself what was real or not. Still one of my favorite movies of all time. I can't tell you. I mean, and I do it not for a living, but God has blessed me with the gift of discernment to be able to, help people with their severe paranormal issues. And I've been in a time or two in situations like that exorcism scene in the end. So like I remember being in the theater, feeling like my heart was going to come out of my chest and being on the edge of my seat, and I had the hair goosebumps going and the hair raging up on my arms. Great movie. But when it comes to movies and TV, they've got to be entertaining.
Yeah.
So they do take some of the truth, and then they do have to add some they have to take some creative liberties and some entertainment license, and sometimes make it a little bit more than it was so it can be entertaining. And I don't find an issue with that. Some people really find an issue with that, but I would have to recommend, when I tell a lot of people that I tell much of what happened in The Conjuring didn't really happen, some people get upset with me, and I say I'm not trying to call anybody out, but talk to Andrea or get her books. And but still one of my favorite all-time movies. But that event, if you guys ever put that event together, that's going to be super, super, super cool.
Mhm.
And I want to ask you about your book. I still live here in Southern Nevada.
Mhm.
Um, I can't tell you, for many, many years, my wife and I would wake up on a Sunday and be bored. And we would just open up a map of Southern California, close our eyes, put our finger down, and wherever our finger was at, we'd say, let's just go there. Let's just go for a drive. And we'd make sure we had plenty of gas, and we would say, okay, if we get this far and we were at half a tank, wherever we're at, we know, unless there's a gas station there, we know we have to head back. We don't want to get stranded. But I can't tell you how many, what I'm just going to call ghost towns that weren't even on the
Mhm.
map,
Yeah.
that we drove past or found and went out and explored. Um, so we love that. So talk to the viewers about the book, especially people that not only love ghost stories and history, but love ghost towns. Talk
Mhm.
to people about putting that book together and what they can expect to get from purchasing the new book.
Well, the inspiration for this book came from when we filmed Real Haunts Ghost Towns with motion picture video, and that's available on Tubi. And I had already done all the research for all the ghost towns that we went to go visit. So it was one of those things where it's like, well, what am I going to do with all this research? Because we didn't use it all in the, because documentaries, you only have so much time to fit everything in. And I decided that I was just going to throw it together, reached out to History Press, which is owned by Arcadia Publishing, and they approved the contract to go ahead and finish the book and make it happen. And I kind of took this in a lot of the History Press books talk about the history and the location kind of. It's almost like a tour book to give you a history of the location. I kind of took it a step further, and the first two chapters before you even get to any ghost towns talk about what makes a ghost town. So why is the ghost town actually considering it, and the three levels of ghost towns, completely abandoned, working ghost town, and near ghost town. And I did that to kind of give insight as to why some ghost towns were included, because I did include Boulder City, which really isn't a ghost town, not a working ghost town, but there's a lot of areas that are abandoned. In that, ever since they finished the building of the Hoover Dam, a lot of areas in Boulder City have been abandoned. So I thought that would be a nice little addition to it. And I then take you guys, everybody, on a journey through why ghost towns are haunted, and then why ghost towns are not haunted, and talk about the different reasoning behind that. And then from there on, it goes into all the different cities and different towns that are haunted. And it kind of gives a background into the history that is making the paranormal activity happen. Like who's there. There's stories about Wyatt and Virgil Earp, Rhett Butler from Clark
Oh
Gable.
yeah,
There we go.
yeah, yeah,
There's stories about him in there. There's mob stories. And it just kind of talks about all the different legends and lore of the area that could lead to it possibly being haunted. And it's one of those things where, are these areas haunted? Some of them I know for sure, because there's personal stories that I've experienced firsthand. But yet, a lot of it's secondhand information from, there's paranormal researchers who reached out to me. There's, people who work at these locations. A lot of locations I went in and asked the workers, hey, is there paranormal activity here? And a lot of the times I got, shh, don't tell my boss I'm telling you this, but so there's a lot of an unnamed person or an undisclosed location
yeah.
in this book. So, and it just takes you on a journey through the different ghost towns.
Yeah, and this area out here is so rich with that. It's like I don't know if you've heard some of the stories, some of the things that are floating to the surface are being found now that Lake Mead is so low and it
Mm-hmm.
keeps losing water all the time. They just found a gentleman remains in a barrel.
Mm-hmm.
They determined it was a man. They determined he was shot, and they determined that it happened between 30 to 40 years ago. So somehow they go into their archive of, you know,
Mm-hmm.
police files, and they figure, well, they go through the list and they find this one guy who, disappeared. His family reported him to have disappeared right about that time here in town. So they reach out to the family, and some of them are still living. They went and took DNA samples of everybody because they're still trying to verify if it's him. But the sister's brother disappeared about 30, 40 years ago from here, and he was in the mob.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
it's crazy some of the things that they're pulling up out of there. But let me ask you this: I know you've physically gone to a lot of these ghost towns, and I do
Mhm.
too. I'll give you my answer after I ask you. What do you do when you arrive, even if you just plan to arrive at this ghost town and do a walkthrough, not necessarily an investigation or conduct a seance or anything crazy like that, but what do you do when you arrive at these ghost towns?
Well, first of all, I make sure I'm fully protected because you never know what might want to follow you home. But then, other than that, I make sure I either have an audio recorder going. I actually have a keychain clip that I'll attach to my belt buckle, and that records everything from the entire time I'm there. Or I have a camera rolling, just because it's interesting. We have some footage of things that we didn't even know were happening because we weren't investigating at the time until we reviewed the evidence at the end.
Yes. Very close. What my wife and I do is very, very close. First of all, we introduce ourselves, and it's funny you're talking to spirit out in the middle of nowhere at these abandoned locations. Nobody else is around, but we introduce ourselves. We ask for, and we never hear if they give us permission or not, but we ask for permission to be there, and
Mhm.
then of course, without knowing if we've been given that permission, then we tread respectfully, and we make sure we let them know that we come with respect. And but one of the main things we do before we leave, and this is like right at the car before we open up the doors to get in the car, we announce that no one is allowed to
Mhm.
follow us home. That either stay here or move on to where you need to be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do they always listen? Not
No.
always. We've
No.
had our fair share of hitchhikers that we even feel it in the car on the way home. Sometimes we pull over and we open the doors and this is as good a place as any to get out and float back to
Yeah.
where you jumped
Mhm.
in here. But it just ghost towns. And still have this fantasy about possibly buying one because you hear they come up for sale all the time, these little ghost
Mhm.
towns, and some of them are so cool. They still have the saloon there, or a little church, an old hotel that you could live in. Make
Mhm.
um, who knows, that may or may not happen. I thought if I ever did buy one, I would keep it open for paranormal teams to come out and hone their craft. Not,
Mhm.
not do any provoking and make things bad for me after they leave, but come hone your craft, train your people, investigate. Let's find out the history of this place that now I own. But I also thought I would do sky watches,
Yeah.
especially if the place is known to have a fair amount of
Mhm.
UAP sightings. Have conduct night watches out there, so that may happen. You'll be on the top of the invite list if I ever do that. Have you heard much? Do you know much about Bodhi?
No.
I'm thinking about, a lot. First of all, a lot of people have sent me stuff that they've just picked up that they thought were harmless. Like I was at a ghost town and I found a railroad spike, so I brought it home.
Mhm.
Um, People have picked up things at these ghost towns and brought them home and ended up having issues, and then they send me the items. But Bodhi, and now I'm thinking that Bodhi may be actually technically in California, but close enough to where I meet.
Mhm.
A lot of people think it's a Nevada ghost town, but apparently it's got a curse. And they have like a makeshift little museum there that the BLM had put together of all the things that people have stolen from there, the most horrendous bad luck and attachments and things that have happened to these people, to where they either physically brought these items back or mailed them back with a letter apologizing for having taken this. And almost to a person, at least what I've read and who I've spoken to, say once they did apologize and return these items, whether they did it physically or mailed them back, the issues got better for them after
Mhm.
that. So I would like to warn people to be careful what you do. Sometimes you stumble upon these things, there's nobody around, you're like, how cool is that? But it's not so cool when you get home and then you find that something came along with it. So theories on that and what you may want to advise and speak to people about when it comes to that type of thing.
My theory is I tell everybody, and I think I even mentioned it in the book, is you want to make sure that you leave the only sign of your being there should be your footprints. You don't want to disturb anything, you don't want to damage anything, and you definitely don't want to take anything. And it's not so much that it's stealing, it's also, like you said, anything can come home with you.
Yeah, it's you got to be very, very, very careful. I mean, and I know people that say, "Well, yeah, I haven't had any issues yet, and I have a few things here in the home, but and I asked for not only do I ask for permission to be there, but I ask for permission to take it." Well, okay, maybe that does, or maybe that doesn't work. I don't know.
And then
Um,
one day they get attacked with paranormal activity, and they're trying to wonder why and what's happening.
I before I get to this third question here, and this is another question from me. I'm going to get at least one guest question out so people don't send me hate mail. And this is that guy I pulled out of my mailbag, John C. from New York. Some say there are only angels and demons. Demons sometimes pretend to be ghosts. Do you believe in ghosts? And I'm a believer. Um, and I have a lot of even people in my field, fellow clergy, and I don't judge, and I totally understand why some, even in my field, would think no, there is only angels and demons, and don't believe in ghosts. I'm just going to dump that question in your lap and have you, wherever you want to take your answer and whatever you'd like to discuss with us about your theories on that, have at it.
Well, of course, everybody has their own beliefs and different beliefs. And for me, I've always believed that there is something else out there. And I view my angels more as like spirit guides. So it's basically just another term for them. And they're just always around us. They're always watching, they're always protecting. They're sometimes causing us, mischief just to see how we handle situations. And then as far as demons, I don't really want to per se. I mean, I can't say I don't believe in demonic energy, but it's more of a negative energy for me. But then again, some of the things I've encountered, it kind of opens your eyes and makes you wonder, well, maybe it was a demon that we were dealing with. So it's kind of one of those things where it's always open. I'm always open to learning more about it and determining it. But I just, from the way I was raised Roman Catholic and didn't like the way the church did things. So I kind of took my own path, and it just kind of took me on a way where I really wasn't believing, in heaven and hell in the aspect of two locations. I believe that they're all the same location. And I get a lot of hate mail for this from people, but it's all on how you look at things. So I'm always looking at, the positive. You want to find the positive in something. And sometimes it's not always possible to find the positive, but what we experience in our life now and what we'll experience in our afterlife as ghosts just depends on what we believe in and where we want to go.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, like I tell people this all the time, and I get this look. I really, the longer I'm in this, the more I feel the less I know,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never claimed to have all the answers and know it all, and I don't believe that there's any experts out there. Um, what's your take on when people say in order for us to advance this field of paranormal research, we have to now take a scientific approach, uh, only go with scientific methods and all of that, rather than uh, what many people do now is, for me, and I think it'll always be this way for me, it's always been a spiritual endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Researching the unknown, investigating the unknown, the spiritual world. Um, and I, until I can like have a ghost sit down here with me at the podcast and interview them, you know, I can't prove ghosts exist, even though I believe in them. And skeptics, well, they can't prove that they don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But what seems to bother me a little now are a lot of these paranormal investigators that are saying, my way is going to revolutionize, my way of investigating the paranormal is going to revolutionize the industry, and my way I'm going to prove it's the only way you should be investigating, and if you don't do it this way, you should get out of the field because you're not doing it right. I'm, I don't think that's cool. What do you think?
Well, with any scientific belief that we have now that's a true science, it all started originally with spiritual beliefs. You have the study of astronomy was just spiritual beliefs in the gods in the sky. And that developed into, astronomy. Then you had, your physics and chemistry was all based on, their experiences. And they went out to try to prove their experiences were happening and then why they were happening it. And that's where we end up today. And as far as being it's my way or the highway type of mentality, that's one of the biggest problems in our field. The paranormal field is still at its infancy, even though it's been around for many years, because I guess it's at that debating stage where you can still have that spiritual connection, but we do need to start switching and using both the spiritual connection with scientific methods. And it doesn't even have to be the true scientific method. We need to create our own method because our field is not like other sciences. And we need to find that balance and move the field forward. The biggest problem that we're having now with the field not moving forward is all this bickering over whose way is the right way, over, people wanting to be successful and be on TV. And it's what people need to realize is that if they just focus on the field, they'll be able to help advance it. And it's the closed-minded people and the ones that aren't willing to learn either. Because just the other day I had asked a question to a bunch of researchers, hey, do you collect any, chartable data when you go on investigations? And 99.9% of the people who responded said, yes, I get EVPs and I take photos. And I'm like, well, that's not chartable data. We need to also be looking at the scientific data that happens, what's happening in the atmosphere when you're getting paranormal activity. We know paranormal activity happens, but we need to start finding out why. And the only way we can do that is to start being more scientifically minded and getting the data that we need to figure out why.
Yes, well said. There's no wrong answer here, but in your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think the most important thing is that those of us in the field of paranormal research, ghost hunting, ghost busting, deliverance, all that? So, what do you think the most important thing for us should be?
Sorry, my dog and cat are fighting
It's
over
okay.
here. I kept seeing her tail pop open.
My house too. My house too. I got to put the doggy hard door on so my mastiff's not right outside the window here barking at me because she knows I'm in here doing this, and she's mad she can't come in. So, and then I've got, I think at last count, I got about. I know everybody's going to freak out right now. I got 14 cats that adopted my wife and I. We don't know where they came from, but then you start taking care of a couple of them, then they go get friends, and then those friends go get friends, and so yeah. So yeah, I'm with you on the animal fighting thing.
But the most important thing in this field that we need right now is the idea of sharing. We need to share our experiences. We need to share data. There's too many people who won't share locations. They won't share their evidence. And I refer to it as hoarding, because they're waiting for the TV networks to reach out to them and for them to have the best piece of evidence available. And that's not, the chances of that happening, they're not going to come to you unless you're promoting on social media what you found, because they don't know you have it.
Yeah.
It is my theory, but I don't know how many people I've asked that, hey, you investigated such and such place. So did I, let's share our evidence. What happened? And they're like, no, I'm not sharing my evidence with you. I'm not telling you what happened. And it's like, well, how can we compare? We can't compare if we're not helping each other.
Is it just me? And if it is just me, say, yeah, Rev, it's you. You're a weirdo. Is it just me, or can you tell too? I can always tell, and I'm not calling anybody out, but I can always tell those that are in the field for just that reason,
Mm-hmm.
to maybe, hopefully, get on a TV show or have a movie made by about their paranormal adventures. And those that are truly in it because they either had experiences themselves and now it's like really therapeutic for them to go out and try and help other people with their issues because they're struggling with it, because it can be a very terrifying thing. Some of the most minor haunts or things that have happened to people that you and I wouldn't even bat an eye at can be very traumatic and horrifying for some people.
Mm-hmm.
um, I can tell the difference between the people that are in it for the right reasons and people that are in it for the wrong reasons. And I never say anything or judge or call anybody out. But am I the only one that does that, or can you tell
No,
that too?
I can tell it in the first 5 minutes of talking with somebody, based on, or like when they fill out a questionnaire for help, based on the lingo they use. A lot of people who are in it for the attention don't talk from the heart. They basically just regurgitate what they see and hear on the TV shows.
And they get mad at you if you ask them if they even think you're insinuating that they're an attention getter.
Yep.
They get very upset.
Or my favorite is
Um,
when they argue with you. It's like they'll show you a photo and they'll be like, I'll be like, no, and I explain to them why exactly it's not paranormal evidence. And they're like, but X, Y, and Z on such and such a show shared a similar photo and they said it was evidence. And it's like, well, I saw that episode too, and that wasn't evidence either.
Okay, well, how much time do we got left? We got enough time left. I'm not having even gotten to hardly any of your guest questions. They'll just have
We
to
never
send me
do. I
hate
just need to
mail.
be a recurring guest every month until we get through them all.
And I wasn't going to ask you this question. I really wasn't even going to ask you this question, but the conversation, and it happens with you and I all the time when we talk. They go in directions I didn't expect they to go into. But now I'm the last phenomena I was experiencing, I probably ran past you. Now I'm experiencing a whole new one with people that are reaching out to me. And it goes right back to the beginning of the show, probably why I'm thinking about this, the attachment thing.
Mhm.
A lot of people are surprised when I tell them that the majority of the clients coming to me nowadays are the next generation, the next up and coming paranormal teams that, you know, I don't even remember ever a paranormal school that you could sign up and go to and become a certified paranormal investigator. I'm sure they're out there, but
Mhm.
it's hard for people to get training unless there's another established team in their neck of the woods that are looking to bring on new investigators, and they bring you on, you qualify, they bring you on, they train you. Otherwise, in that, all they really have to go on is what they see on TV. So they buy recorders, they buy cameras, they buy a number of other gadgets. Some work, some are useless. I'm sure you've experienced that. But they go out, they get their team together, a bunch of friends from school, and they go to a place they probably shouldn't go to. They're at the wrong place at the wrong time. They say or do the wrong thing. And the next thing you know, one or all of them end up coming home with attachments. Now their lives are turned upside down. And then they end up coming to somebody like me for help. Um, the phenomena I'm running to now are these people already lived in an active home. That's what caused them to get into this field.
Mhm.
And now they bring an attachment home, and things were kind of okay. They found a way to deal with the spirits that were in their home, like me. But now they bring home an attachment, and now these attachments, these outside spirits and the spirits that were already there attached to the home and the property, start battling it out. And then these people find themselves right smack in the dab in the middle of this paranormal battle. Have you heard of that happening much before? And if whether you have or haven't, what do you think when I tell you this? And how would you advise somebody to deal with this?
Yeah, it's a tough call. I know there was a location, the McCaw School of Mines in Henderson. I investigated there several times, and we know for a fact, I mean, we don't know for a fact, but I've had several encounters, even without audio equipment or recording equipment, with a Daniel. And his former mining gear is on display at the museum that his wife donated after he passed. So he's pretty much there just kind of protecting the mine and looking over things. Well, we had gone just before I moved, we had gone and done a open investigation. We brought in several other people to experience the mine as a fundraiser for them. And it just didn't seem right. And upon further listening to our audio and doing there was another spirit that it was almost like a wandering spirit. He had just kind of stumbled across the mine and decided to stay there. And he was it was to the point where Daniel didn't come out at all that entire evening, and that just didn't feel right. So we pretty much, once all the guests left, we stood our ground and told, hey, look, you're not supposed to be here. You need to mosey on your own way. I don't know who you are, what you're doing. And whether it worked or not, I don't know. I haven't been back. So hopefully next spring, when I go back and do an investigation at the museum, I'll be able to find out if Daniel's still there and if this other creep left. But it's one of those things where you just kind of got to stand your ground. If you want the spirits that were there to stay, let them know that. I mean, you don't need to point blank say, hey, you're welcome to stay here, because you don't want to do that either. But let the spirit that you don't want there and the one that's causing the trouble know, hey, you need to get out.
I bet you didn't expect to take confession tonight, but I'm going to confess something to you. I have been guilty of saying a couple of things back in the day, like you shouldn't make deals with ghosts, and among other things, should never tell people they need to move. But I'm going to admit that as of recently, I did, sometimes I'm a big when in Rome. I'm a big think outside the box. I'm a big, if everything else is not working, what can it hurt at this point?
Right.
So I have a time or two advise people, why don't you just sit down as a family and talk to whatever's here? It's not, it's freaking you out, but it's not malevolent. I definitely don't think it's demonic.
Mm-hmm.
But why don't you talk to whatever it is here and make a deal with it that, you'll stop bringing people in to poke the bear and mess with it, and you won't try to bring these people in. They're going to get it to cross over wherever it needs to go. As long as it lightens up and quits taking things, throwing things, appearing and scaring people. If you can find a way to make a deal, make a deal. And then sometimes there's no deal to be made and things are just so bad. And nothing I've done or anybody I've brought in to help me has improved the situation, and things are getting really bad and violent. And I have advised a family or two, I think it's time to move. So what do you think about making a deal with the ghosts, or get things getting so bad, advising people it might be time to move?
That might be an option. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't want to really say make a deal with the ghosts, but I have talked to ghosts that have been in our home and have actually scolded them for what they were doing. And that, for me, it seems to work.
Well, you're a doctor and a teacher, ghost Ed 101. They got to listen.
Well, it's like we had a ghost, and he was in our apartment. He was an old farmer from the Orange Farms, and he would just walk through the house in his overalls and barefoot. And I was constantly seeing him. I'm like, clean up before you walk through the living room with, your bare feet. And one day I smelled cigar smoke, and I was like, damn it, George, we don't allow cigars in the house. And the smoke smell instantly went away. And I searched around the apartment and everything, and no neighbor was smoking cigars at the time. So it was really interesting. He listened.
Have you ever told anybody that you thought they should move?
No, I haven't gotten that far, but I have had one client who didn't want our help anymore, and she sold her house and moved.
I'm going to throw something out there, and this is just from my own personal experience. I've never seen a naked ghost. I know that do you remember that one time where they were trying to film a paranormal show version of Naked and Afraid, and all the investigators were going to be naked? That never hit the airways, never made it to TV. That was the most hysterical thing I had ever heard. I personally have never seen a naked ghost. I've seen just legs. I've seen just a head. Most ghosts that I kind of determine are the spirit of a person that died there, but the person died older, and they end up appearing in spirit form, much younger. I've seen that. Now, flip side of that coin, when I have seen entities that didn't have any clothes on, they were usually malevolent, very low vibrational, malevolent,
Mhm.
um, uh, possibly demonic entities, and usually uh, they're deformed also. Just throwing that out there for people. I don't know if anybody wants to chime in out there and send me a message that they've seen a naked ghost. I personally haven't. A lot of people, when I throw that story out, say, well, if you see a naked, deformed entity, lots of times it's elementals. What are your take on these nature spirits that are attached to the land?
Right. Elementals, elves, and fairies, and all of that, I firmly believe in. Just because that goes back to my Mother Earth background and beliefs. And my thing is they're really not naked either. And that makes me wonder: are we not seeing, like you said, naked ghosts because we're projecting clothes on them? Type of, you know what I'm saying? It's like we're
Yeah.
self-manifesting some of these spirits, or self-manifesting them dressed, because I've never, and it's like, why wouldn't we see them naked? It's like, why do we see them the way we see them?
Yeah, isn't it?
And
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I'm gonna be thinking about that the rest of the night. Yeah,
but yeah, as far as like the
when
different
you die
elementals,
and get buried and go to heaven, or choose not to, and you're floating around as the energy,
right?
I'm more by the orb, and
Hmm.
that's just how they don't blame the ghost that they can't just
Right.
appear like you and me and walk around. Um, if that's the way that they can appear, their energy, that's the way they appear.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it just has always baffled me that they don't just appear back naked,
Hmm.
and or they have clothes on. Just yeah, that's always kind of baffled me about that. Or if it's something that you're right, they're projecting that on us and allowing us to see them like that.
Hmm.
Who knows? That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Anything you want to rant about?
No.
I like to give some people who I believe have earned the right to rant about something if they want to rant if you want to about
No,
anything.
I just think this field, we need to stop bickering with each other. I've left so many Facebook groups because it's nonstop back and forth. And it's like this field's never going to progress if we keep wasting our time arguing.
And just I have found a way, still to a certain degree. I can't let my wife see when somebody really lashes out at me and gets nasty with me because she's very overprotective of me. So there's still some things I have to hide from her. And it never really bothered me, even in the many many years ago when that would happen, and it didn't really bother me then. Um, and I just found a way now to just totally ignore it. I give it absolutely no attention or no energy. But we all get attacked. We all have trolls, and some people lose their mind over it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just can't. I advise people all the time. It's the nature of the beast, man. It's the field that we're into, and you just got to find a way to deal with it. And who cares what these people think about you? Be true
Mm-hmm.
to yourself and do what you do, and just keep doing what you do, and don't worry about it.
And that's the philosophy I've taken. I mean, I still, it hurts when, so I don't want to say that they don't like me, wah, type of, I'm not going to cry because they don't like me, but it's some of the things they say get very mean and personal. And
Oh,
it's like,
beyond just mean and personal, it can get really brutal.
yeah, it makes you wonder why you're in this field. But I do it mostly to get answers, is why I'm doing it. But I remember we were filming Real Haunts, and the producer was talking with us while we were driving up to Goldfield. And he's like, okay, he's like, now I'm going to warn you. He's like, you're going to have people who love you and people who hate you. You're going to hear more from the people who hate you than you will the people who love you. He's like, so just take it with a grain of salt. Know we did the best we could putting together an amazing production and move on. And I'm like, okay, that's good advice.
Well, on top of that good advice, I'm going to throw a little more advice out of my own for those that believe in the power of prayer. And everybody that knows me knows that I believe in the power of prayer. What has helped me when that happens? I don't like to ask people to do things that I don't practice. So what I do is I usually pray when some of the really nasty ones come at me, like this person doesn't even know me, and wow, they're coming after me like I killed one of their children, and all they did was stumble upon my website. I pray for them,
Mhm.
and it totally releases me from any weird feeling I may have had from that attack. And I have I have had some of these people come back to me out of blue down the road, so apologetic in how they first treated me when they met me,
Mhm.
and they want to apologize for that. They want to, kiss and make up and become friends, and and I can tell that they're truly sorry for that behavior. I do believe in the power of prayer. Prayer for your enemies. Learn
Mhm.
how to turn the other cheek. Um, it can go a long way. And for those out there that are watching that believe in the power of prayer, give that a shot. I'm going to ask you a quick question, and then I have to say goodbye to you. Did you have fun? Will you come back again?
Of course.
Okay. Because everybody loves you. I love you. I respect
Mhm.
you. And when I get off of shows with you, like I said, you're on a short list of people that many people always reach out to me afterwards and say, "When is she coming back?" And I never really know. I'm always booked out months ahead, but I'll
Mhm.
reach out to you again. I just want to make sure you had fun. And I want you to know if you ever don't have fun, you can say, "No, today's show, Sean, I didn't really have much fun. I really didn't. We could have skipped today." You could be honest with me about that too, but
I always look forward to the show. But real quick before we go, I did see Jeremy asked when and where the convention is that we were talking about earlier, and that's Phantasm. It's in Orlando, and it is at the DoubleTree Resort at Universal Studios,
very, very cool.
and it's
I'll throw this
this
out too.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Your website or one of them,
Mhm.
Exploration Paranormal, all one word.com. You
Mhm.
also have a wonderful Facebook page called Exploring the Paranormal. And you've got the show, Ghost Education 101 show, a
Yep.
Facebook Live show. And I believe that's
And
on YouTube also, right?
right, and a couple other shows that we just added. I have Exploring the Paranormal is going to be now airing live on Tuesday mornings on WLTK Radio.
Very cool. Oh my gosh,
So,
good for you. Wonderful talking with you tonight. Thank you so much for spending an hour out of your busy Monday evening with me and my paranormal ministry family. God
mhm.
bless you. You're on the prayer list, and I will see you soon.
Thank you. You have a great night.
All right. Good night, Heather.
Bye.
Okay, guys. I promise you, she'll be back. You heard it. She had fun. She'll be back. I will be here this coming Friday. My Friday show is a little earlier, 2 p.m. Pacific. Get your passports ready. We're going to Ireland. That's right. We're going to talk with Jenny Sullivan Sannyasi, and I probably just butchered her last name. Jenny, I'm sorry, but she's in Ireland. She's a paranormal authority, radio, TV, film personality, podcaster, you name it. Very cool lady. That's this Friday, August 19th, 2 p.m. Pacific. I got some people to thank. My co producers, Zach and Adrian Clayton. That's right. They are both the Claytons because they just got married. For co producing my show, I couldn't do this without them. So God bless them both. Thank you to Things Network. Thank you to Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment. Thank you to Skeleton Key Network. Thank you to Pact, Podcasting for All Coming Together channel. Trust me, guys, look up Pact. Little P, capital ACT. Podcasting for All Coming Together channel. Check it out. Everybody that has a show on there are people that just like to do good things for other people. So it's really, really cool. They could use your support. Check them out. What else do I want to say other than I love you all? Thank you all for being here. I don't have a show without each and every one of you. I'm going to tell everybody a bad joke that one of you sent in that I'm going to pull out of this hat in a poor attempt to put a smile on everybody's face. If you boil a funny bone, what does it become? Laughing stock. Good night, Dog. Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. God bless you all. Peace.